The fluorescent lights of the campus health center hummed with a sterile emptiness. Ethan Morgan stared at the white slip of paper in his hands, the printed words blurring before his eyes. Probability of Omega designation, 99.9%. The air felt thin, impossible to pull into his lungs. All his life, the trajectory had been set. Top athlete, scholarship to Aldridge University, captain of the cross-country team. He'd built himself from the ground up with that single, unshakable certainty. He was meant to be an alpha. Now this... He shoved the form into his backpack, the crinkle of paper sounding like a gunshot in the quiet corridor. Outside, the quad was alive with the shouts from the basketball courts. A familiar voice, laced with that particular brand of effortless arrogance, called his name. He didn't turn around. He kept his head down, his strides long and punishing, aiming for the sanctuary of the lecture hall. The collision was solid, a jarring impact against a wall of muscle. He stumbled back, his already frayed temper igniting. In a hurry, Morgan? The voice was a slow drawl, honey over gravel. Jax Carter stood before him, a lazy smirk playing on his lips. Basketball jersey, tousled dark hair, eyes the color of a stormy sky. His rival, the city's golden boy, a scholarship student too, but one who wore his status like a second skin. Top of his class, star point guard, and a confirmed alpha since his junior year of high school. Of course, Ethan's jaw tightened. Every interaction with Jax felt like a test of wills he was lately doomed to fail. Got a problem, Carter? Just wondering if you'd seen the regional standings. Seems our little bet's been settled. Jax's grin widened, all teeth. My team pulled in 6 medals. Yours managed 5. A cheerleader for a month, that was the deal. My terms stand. And the skirt, the memory of the wager, made in a moment of stupid bravado, curdled in Ethan's stomach. Before he could snap a retort, a wave of dizziness washed over him. His knees buckled, a treacherous weakness seeping into his bones. He threw a hand out against the cool brick wall to steady himself, his breath hitching. Jax's smirk faded. He took a half-step closer, his head tilting. You okay? The proximity was a mistake. A strange, cloying scent, like a smoldering cedar log after rain, wrapped around Ethan, both unsettling and inexplicably compelling. A heat, entirely foreign and deeply alarming, bloomed at the base of his neck. He wanted to shove Jax away, to put miles between them, but his body felt like wet sand. Back off, Ethan managed to grind out, his voice strained. He could feel a humiliating tremor in his hands. To his shock, Jax did. He took a full step back, his storm cloud eyes scanning Ethan's face with an unreadable intensity. For a long moment, he just stared, then turned and walked away without another word. The relief was immediate. The dizzying scent faded. The weakness receded to a dull ache. Ethan sagged against the wall, his heart hammering against his ribs. It made no sense. Nothing made sense anymore. Later, in his dorm room, his roommate Leo leaned against the doorframe, a knowing glint in his eye. Saw your little hallway drama with Carter. That whole chest-pounding thing you did? Very dramatic. Looked like something out of a teen romance stream. He wandered off looking like he'd been hit by a bus. Ethan scoffed, refusing to entertain the thought. He had bigger problems. The doctors about his imminent designation change was a ticking clock. He just had to make it to summer break, where he could deal with this private catastrophe away from prying eyes, especially Jax Carter's. Friday arrived with a sense of grim inevitability. The basketball arena was cavernous and quiet, the polished court reflecting the rows of empty bleachers. Jax was a lone figure at the very top, a silhouette against the high windows. Ethan climbed the steps, each one heavier than the last, and dropped onto a seat 3 rows away. Jax watched him approach, that infuriating half-smile back in place. Took your time. I'm here, Ethan said flatly. The dance isn't happening. I'll transfer. Jax chuckled, a low sound that echoed in the empty space. He leaned forward, closing the distance between them. Tell you what, call it off. Just say, I give up, Jax. Right now. The scent hit Ethan again, stronger this time. That cedar and rain smell, now underscored with something darker, like distant ash. It wasn't perfume. His head swam, a sudden violent craving for that scent to be closer, to sink into it, blindsided him. He lurched to his feet, stumbling back. What is that? Are you wearing some kind of cologne? It's overwhelming. Jax stood, his expression shifting from amusement to confusion. I'm not wearing anything. Bull, Ethan snapped, his control fraying. He grabbed the front of Jax's jersey, pulling him close to prove his point, and inhaled. The world tilted. The scent was pouring from Jax's skin, from the pulse point at his throat. It was intoxicating, terrifying. He lost his balance, dragging them both down onto the hard bleacher step in a tangle of limbs. Jax caught himself on his elbows, hovering over Ethan, his face inches away. His eyes had gone dark. All traces of laziness vanished. Ethan, he said, his voice dangerously soft. That's not cologne. That's my pheromone signature. An alpha's scent. How can you smell it? The question hung in the air, a truth neither of them could voice. An alpha couldn't detect another alpha's unique scent so acutely. Only an omega, and only one with a dangerously high compatibility rating, could do so before a bond was formed. Before either could move, the main doors crashed open. A flood of cheerleaders in maroon and gold uniforms streamed in, their laughter dying as they took in the scene. Two figures, one pinned beneath the other on the bleachers, frozen in a moment of undeniable intimacy. The silence lasted a heartbeat before it shattered into a chorus of shrieks and the blinding flashes of phone cameras. Ethan scrambled free, vaulted over the railing, and fled out the service exit, the sound of Jax's name and his own chasing him like ghosts. The digital fallout was swift and merciless. By nightfall, the university's social feeds were a wildfire of speculation. Jax and Ethan. Rivalry or romance? The grainy, high-contrast photo was everywhere. Ethan lay on his bed in the dark, the glow of his phone screen illuminating his grim face. His whole identity, the carefully constructed persona of the untouchable top athlete, was crumbling, and Jax Carter was at the center of the wreckage. Determined to salvage some control, he decided he needed to understand what he was becoming. During the next lunch period, he slipped away from the alpha-dominated gym fields and toward the shaded courtyard where the Omegas typically gathered. He lurked behind an ancient oak tree, observing. The scene was a culture shock. The conversations were a whirlwind of topics he had no reference for, debates about the best designers for presentation wear, the merits of different scent-neutralizing lotions, the subtle art of nonverbal cues. A guy nearby demonstrated a delicate sway of his hips, proclaiming he could now balance a soda bottle there. Ethan felt a profound, soul-deep alienation. This wasn't him. He could never be this. His teammate, a burly shot putter named Rick, found him there. Ethan, what are you doing? The guys from that sports academy across town are causing trouble again. They jumped one of our runners last night. They say they won't stop until you face them. A familiar, righteous anger surged, cutting through his confusion. He kicked a nearby trash can in frustration, the metallic clang echoing. A group of Omegas shrieked and scattered, shooting him horrified looks. The anger drained away, replaced by a cold dread. He was an Omega now. This kind of brute reaction was what alphas did. What was he supposed to do? He left Rick with a terse promise to handle it and walked away, his spirit heavier than before. He couldn't navigate this new world. The week dragged on. Jax gave him a wide berth, but the silence between them felt charged, like the calm before a storm. Ethan found himself missing their combative banter, the constant push and pull. The walks to and from class felt longer, lonelier. One Friday evening, the weight of it all drove him to detour to a corner store. He bought a vanilla ice cream sandwich and sat on the curb, letting the sugar melt on his tongue, watching the downtown traffic blur by. A little girl was playing with a cluster of helium balloons outside a bakery, her laughter bright. He didn't see the delivery van until it was too late. Its brakes screamed as it fishtailed down the slight incline, directly toward the child. Ethan was moving before his mind caught up, a pure adrenaline leap that sent the girl tumbling to safety. The grille of the van filled his vision. He braced for impact. A force yanked him backward, a vice-like arm wrapping around his torso. They hit the concrete sidewalk in a bruising roll, the van's side mirror grazing Ethan's arm as it roared past. Gasping, Ethan looked up into the livid, pale eyes of Jax Carter. "You idiot," Jax snarled, his chest heaving. His usual composure was shattered. Raw fear etched into his features. "What were you thinking? You could have been..." He cut himself off, biting back the words, but Ethan heard them anyway. "You could have been killed and Omega alone on the street." Something in Ethan's stubborn defiance cracked. Jax had just saved his life. Back at Ethan's empty, echoing house in the hills, the atmosphere shifted. After showers, Ethan knocked on the guest room door, a bundle of clean clothes in his hands. Jax opened it, still in his dusty jeans and t-shirt, his hair damp. "I brought you these," Ethan said, placing them on a chair. He then rummaged under the coffee table for the first aid kit, pulled out a spray for bruises, and flopped face down on the large leather sofa. "I think I wrenched my shoulder. Can you?" Jax stared at him, his expression unreadable. Ethan was wearing only a towel slung low on his hips. "You know I'm an alpha, right?" Jax finally said, his voice strained. "You can't just parade around like that." Ethan snorted, burying his face in a cushion. "Don't be dramatic. We're just guys. It's fine." With a sigh that seemed to hold the world's exasperation, Jax sat on the edge of the sofa. His hands, warm and surprisingly gentle, worked the medicated spray into Ethan's knotted muscle. The tension began to seep away, replaced by a drowsy warmth. The familiar, comforting scent of cedar and rain enveloped him, and for the first time in weeks, Ethan felt truly safe. He drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, only vaguely aware of a soft touch against his temple and a whispered word that sounded like reckless. A fragile truce formed after that. Ethan would bring Jax coffee in the morning. Jax would let him copy calculus homework, then make him stay after school to actually learn it. They fell into an easy rhythm, walking together, studying in quiet corners of the library. The rumors on campus, however, spiraled from them being a couple to wilder speculations about Ethan's motivations. One Saturday, over textbooks in a quiet coffee shop, Jax broached the subject. "People are talking. They think we're together." Ethan waved a hand dismissively. "I know. I keep telling them we're just friends. I won't ruin your reputation." Jax's pen stilled. After a moment, he changed tack, his tone deceptively casual. "Your first susceptible phase is coming up. Can be difficult, especially without support. Have you thought about finding a temporary anchor? An alpha you trust to help you through it?" Ethan sighed, the ever-present worry resurfacing. "I don't know anyone. Well, except maybe my neighbor's older brother. He's a beta, but he's stable." The temperature in their little corner seemed to drop several degrees. Jax's face went carefully blank. He slid Ethan's corrected homework back across the table. "Right. Good plan, Ethan. A real genius solution." He stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Figure it out yourself." The Cold War that followed was worse than their old fights. The silence was a physical presence. Walking home alone after evening practice, the streets of the college town seemed darker, the shadows between the old brick buildings deeper. He cut through a narrow service alley, a shortcut he always took. The ambush was swift. 5 figures materialized from behind dumpsters, led by a sneering guy with a buzz cut, one of the sports academy thugs. "Look who's alone," Buzzcut taunted, tapping a metal pipe against his palm. "Too good to give us a real match, so we brought the match to you." Ethan set his bag down, adrenaline cutting through his fatigue. He could take them. He had before. But as he moved, a familiar, crippling weakness slithered up his spine. His right eye twitched violently. A hot, slick pain erupted at the nape of his neck. Not now. Oh God, not here. He landed a solid punch on the first attacker, but his next swing went wide, his balance deserting him. He stumbled against the rough brick wall, gasping. One of the gangsters sniffed the air, his eyes widening with malicious delight. Oh, no way. You're an Omega? And you're going into phase right now? He laughed, a nasty, guttural sound. This just got interesting. Maybe we can work out a different kind of deal. Despair, cold and sharp, pierced Ethan's chest. He was helpless. Truly, utterly helpless. Having a party? The voice came from above, cold as polished steel. All heads turned. A figure was perched on the top of the alley wall, backlit by a solitary security light. Jax Carter dropped down without a sound, landing in a casual crouch before straightening. He stepped deliberately between the gangsters and Ethan's slumped form. 5-on-1, Jax observed, his voice devoid of all its usual lazy humor. Classy. This doesn't concern you, Carter, Buzzcut spat, though he took a step back. Jax's gaze swept over them, and the air itself seemed to thicken with a pressure that hadn't been there before. The scent of cedar turned sharp, the ash note rising like a threat. It does now. One of the thugs, emboldened by panic, lunged. Jax moved faster than Ethan's eye could follow. A sidestep, a vicious kick to the knee, and the man was on the ground, howling. Jax didn't even look at him. His focus was entirely on Ethan. He turned, his expression unreadable. He knelt, his voice dropping low. Can you stand? Ethan shook his head, tears of pain and humiliation mixing with the sweat on his face. The world was dissolving into scent and agony. Only one anchor remained. He met Jax's stormy eyes, his voice a broken whisper. Jax, please. A temporary mark. I can't do this. Jax went very still. Then, slowly, a familiar, wicked smile touched his lips, though his eyes remained serious. What about the neighbor's brother? Isn't he more your type? The old Ethan would have snapped back. The Omega, trembling on the ground, just let out a sob. I don't want him. I want you. Please. For a long second, Jax simply looked at him, as if memorizing the moment. Then he leaned in, his hand coming up to cradle the back of Ethan's neck. His breath was warm against Ethan's skin. Okay, he murmured, his voice a dark promise. But it comes with a condition.